improved efficiency isn't just from the aero updates. The Q8 uses two motors, and for 2024, the rear motor gets extra windings that allow it to create a stronger magnetic field from the same incoming electricity. The result is more torque and reduced energy consumption. Couple that with a higher capacity battery, 106.0 kWh compared to the outgoing 86.5 kWh pack, and you get more range. Recharging times have also improved. The 2024 Q8 can now take in 170 kilowatts, up from 150 kilowatts, at a DC faster charger and should be able to go from an almost empty 10% battery to a back-in-action 80% in around 31 minutes, according to Audi. For Level 2 home charging, the standard 9.6 kilowatt charger will refill the battery overnight, in about 13 hours, while an optional 19.2 kilowatt setup, an $1,850 upgrade, can do it in half that time, driving the Q8 e-tron. We have to admit we weren't doing charging math while behind the wheel of the Q8 e-tron. In fact, we were somewhat startled to look down after a glorious run through the dappled light of a Northern California redwood forest and realize we had about 40 miles of range left. It's easy to lose track of how far you've gone because the Q8 is so pleasant to drive. It's quick, with a combined 402 horses from its two motors, but not neck-snappingly so. From a stoplight, a foot to the floor would get you to 60 miles per hour in 5.4 seconds, according to Audi, which is middling acceleration by EV standards. And yet it strikes us as just the right amount of power for an SUV of this size, not so fast that you're backing off in a panic if you get a little heavy-shoed, but plenty torquey enough to power out of curves and confidently merge into fast-moving traffic. Changes to the Q8 e-tron steering and suspension improve the driving experience. A quicker ratio of 14.6 to 1 instead of the previous 15.8 to 1 results in a more responsive wheel. The front suspension gets a stiffer bushings, and the adaptive air springs, which offer 3.0 inches of height adjustment, soak up bumps and ruts with aplomb. Along with the suspension settings, the Q8 offers 7 different drive modes, which alter ride height, accelerator response, steering feel, stability control programming, and power delivery. Brake energy regen can be adjusted via paddles on the steering wheel, and the most aggressive setting will just about bring the car to a complete stop. The brake feel is fantastic, with no grabby spots in the pedal travel as the Q8 transitions from regen to friction braking. As is often the case on California's Highway 1, we had to stop several times due to road construction. In the Q8 e-tron Prestige, with its massaging seats, the delay afforded the opportunity to kick back and admire the drifting coastal fog as it floated gently over the panoramic glass roof. Well, during the second stop, we were able to do this. The first one was spent delving through the extensive menus in the 10.1-inch upper display screen to figure out how to turn off the various lane-keeping beeps. For the record, it's in both the settings menu and on the end of the turn signal stalk. The Q8 is screen-heavy, with a second display for climate controls below the main infotainment screen. There's also screen-based instrumentation, and in the Prestige trim we drove, a head-up display. The Q8's interior is much like the exterior, with a design that could be more radical but certainly won't upset anyone. The center console layout doesn't make the best use of space for storage, with cup holders crammed up against the shifter and the vertical phone slot, but there is a left side drawer in the dash that's perfect for parking garage tickets and secret snacks. Human space is excellent, the seats are comfortable both front and rear even in the sloped roof Sportback. Electric vehicles and SUVs lend themselves to comfort and luxury. Audi was wise to recognize that and not attempt to make the Q8 too focused on handling or acceleration. The improved range means less worry about recharging, allowing drivers to relax and enjoy the smooth, quiet ride. 2024 Audi Q8 e-tron and Q8 e-tron Sportback go farther, quietly. The Audi Q8 e-tron and its smooth-backed sibling, the Q8 e-tron Sportback, enter 2024 with a new name, more range, more efficient batteries, better aerodynamics, and faster charging. The mechanical changes address customer concerns about range and performance, while the name change, from just plain e-tron to Q8 e-tron, is to give buyers a better sense of where the big two-row SUV sits in the brand's lineup of EV and ICE offerings. Like the gas-powered Q8, the Q8 e-tron sits at the top of the range, a roomy cruiser ready for glamorous day trips or making day-to-day errands feel glamorous. The base model starts at $75,595, and the Sportback Launch Edition we drove, with the dark chrome S-line trim and orange piped leather interior, rings in at $95,395 with options. Q8 e-tron range and charging times. The dark chrome and orange details are hints that the Q8 e-tron is a luxury SUV with a touch of sporty flair. It gets a bit more flair for 2024 with both a redesigned grille and headlights that highlight its slightly wider body. The styling changes also reduce drag, achieved through new wheel designs, shutters in the nose that can open for cooling and close for smooth sailing, and bodywork around the wheel wells that channels the wind. The wind cheating helps the 2024 Q8 e-tron get better range than the 2023 e-tron, an EPA estimated 285 miles for the standard version and 296 miles for the Sportback, 300 miles with the optional Ultra package, up from 225 to 226 miles before. The improved aerodynamics also let the air also pass by with barely a whisper of wind noise, even on the highway. The Audi's improved efficiency isn't just from the aero updates. The Q8 uses two motors, and for 2024, the rear motor gets extra windings that allow it to create a stronger magnetic field from the same incoming electricity. The result is more torque and reduced energy consumption. Couple that with a higher capacity battery, 106.0 kWh compared to the outgoing 86.5 kWh pack, and you get more range. Recharging times have also improved. The 2024 Q8 can now take in 170 kilowatts, up from 150 kilowatts, at a DC faster charger and should be able to go from an almost empty 10% battery to a back-in-action 80% in around 31 minutes, according to Audi. For Level 2 home charging, the standard 9.6 kilowatt charger will refill the battery overnight, in about 13 hours, while an optional 19.2 kilowatt setup, an $1,850 upgrade, can do it in half that time, driving the Q8 e-tron. We have to admit we weren't doing charging math while behind the wheel of the Q8 e-tron. In fact, we were somewhat startled to look down after a glorious run through the dappled light of a Northern California redwood forest and realize we had about 40 miles of range left. It's easy to lose track of how far you've gone because the Q8 is so pleasant to drive. It's quick, with a combined 402 horses from its two motors, but not neck-snappingly so. From a stoplight, a foot to the floor would get you to 60 miles per hour in 5.4 seconds, according to Audi, which is middling acceleration by EV standards. And yet it strikes us as just the right amount of power for an SUV of this size, not so fast that you're backing off in a panic if you get a little heavy-shoed, but plenty torquey enough to power out of curves and confidently merge into fast-moving traffic. Changes to the Q8 e-tron steering and suspension improve the driving experience. A quicker ratio of 14.6 to 1 instead of the previous 15.8 to 1 results in a more responsive wheel. The front suspension gets a stiffer bushings, and the adaptive air springs, which offer 3.0 inches of height adjustment, soak up bumps and ruts with aplomb. Along with the suspension settings, the Q8 offers 7 different drive modes, which alter ride height, accelerator response, steering feel, stability control programming, and power delivery. Brake energy regen can be adjusted via paddles on the steering wheel, and the most aggressive setting will just about bring the car to a complete stop. The brake feel is fantastic, with no grabby spots in the pedal travel as the Q8 transitions from regen to friction braking. As is often the case on California's Highway 1, we had to stop several times due to road construction. In the Q8 e-tron Prestige, with its massaging seats, the delay afforded the opportunity to kick back and admire the drifting coastal fog as it floated gently over the panoramic glass roof. Well, during the second stop, we were able to do this. The first one was spent delving through the extensive menus in the 10.1-inch upper display screen to figure out how to turn off the various lane-keeping beeps. For the record, it's in both the settings menu and on the end of the turn signal stalk. The Q8 is screen-heavy, with a second display for climate controls below the main infotainment screen. There's also screen-based instrumentation, and in the Prestige trim we drove, a head-up display. The Q8's interior is much like the exterior, with a design that could be more radical but certainly won't upset anyone. The center console layout doesn't make the best use of space for storage, with cup holders crammed up against the shifter and the vertical phone slot, but there is a left side drawer in the dash that's perfect for parking garage tickets and secret snacks. Human space is excellent, the seats are comfortable both front and rear even in the sloped roof Sportback. Electric vehicles and SUVs lend themselves to comfort and luxury. Audi was wise to recognize that and not attempt to make the Q8 too focused on handling or acceleration. The improved range means less worry about recharging, allowing drivers to relax and enjoy the smooth, quiet ride. Beneath the purple skin specific to this commemorative edition 50 jar that celebrates a half-century of BMW's M division, and shared by all M3 competition models, is a stonking 503 horsepower twin-turbo 3.0-litre inline-six. With launch control engaged and the boost holding above 15.0 psi, the quickest ever 3 Series leaps to 30 miles per hour in 1 second. The scoot to 60 miles per hour takes 2.8 seconds, and the quarter-mile passes in 11.0 seconds at 124 miles per hour. All-wheel drive comes standard on the Edition 50 jar and can be had on any other M3 comp for $4,000. It adds roughly 150 pounds to the curb weight, but the additional traction helps the 50 jar clobber its rear drive counterpart by 0.7 and 0.6 second in the 60 miles per hour and quarter-mile drags, respectively. The beauty of the competition's X-Drive mode is that it offers the best of both worlds. All-wheel drive for supercar-grade acceleration and decoupling of the front axle to enable a rear-drive mode for power-oversteer shenanigans. Moving away from the world of dynamic insanity, when the drive modes are left in their softest comfort settings, the M3 Competition X-Drive is a livable place for daily consumption. The sharpest impacts reverberate up forged 19-inch front and 20-inch rear wheels and through the $4,500 carbon fiber buckets. The super supportive seats are somewhat tricky to enter and exit yet provide a surprising amount of comfort. As with all 2023 3 Series, the M3's interior is treated to BMW's curved display that incorporates a 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster and a 14.9-inch touchscreen infotainment system. The iDrive 8 operating system replaces most of the physical buttons for the HVAC and radio controls with a not-so-intuitive infotainment menu structure. Fortunately, iDrive 8.5 rolls out this summer, and BMW promises to solve these teething issues by improving the layout. Perhaps the fact that this 5-seat sleeper returned 27 miles per gallon on our 75 miles per hour fuel economy test is enough to forgive iDrive's shortcomings. More on the BMW M3 starting at $83,595. The M3 Competition X-Drive delivers astounding performance for the money. The Edition 50 jar comes standard with a carbon fiber splitter and decklid spoiler, titanium tailpipes trimmed with carbon fiber, M Sport seats, a 50 jar specific carry-on suitcase, the executive and parking assist packages, adaptive LED headlights with laser light, wireless device charging, and M Shadowline trim, swelling the Windows sticker to $96,695. The only extra cost options are the aforementioned carbon fiber seats and carbon ceramic brakes. But its time at the top of the 3 Series hierarchy will be limited. The lighter 2024 cubic meters CS with an extra 40 horses and Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires arrives in the second half of this year. Whether the CS's $36,100 upcharge is an economically sound decision remains unknown, but it'll certainly contest the throne. New Lexus LM revealed. Bold-looking luxury minivan. Available with either 4 or 7 seats. 48.0-inch screen in the rear. 2.5-litre petrol hybrid engine. On sale in the autumn. Likely to cost well over £100,000. You can have 2 super comfy captain's chairs in the back, as well as a 48-inch screen to keep you entertained. This alternative to the Mercedes V-Class will go on sale in the autumn. New Lexus LM design. Most minivans are pretty bland to look at, but not the Lexus LM. It certainly isn't your typical family bus. Up front you have a massive grille with the classic angular shape you've come to expect from Lexus. You also have some sleek LED headlights with pointy daytime running lights. It's difficult to disguise the boxy profile of a minivan such as this, but Lexus has done its damnedest to keep it looking interesting. The LM is covered in bold creases and complex contours, and the trim around the windows gives the illusion of a floating roof. Around the back you have a slightly curious-looking full-width light bar. It almost looks as though it was straight, but they left it in the sun for too long and it started to melt. The massive roof spoiler is also very UN minivan-like. New Lexus LM rear seats. The main talking point for the Lexus LM is not the mad styling, it's the back seats. You can have a 7-seater version, however it's the 4-seat model which will really grab your attention. You get 2 big, comfy captain's chairs which have been designed to be both comfortable and supportive. They also recline, you have a leg rest and the headrests are even heated to keep your neck warm. Once you're sitting comfortably, you can start to play with the 48-inch cinema screen. That's right, you get a 48-inch screen with a 23-speaker Mark Levinson surround sound system to keep you entertained. It can either be used as one widescreen, or it can be split in 2 so both rear passengers can watch different things. There are 2 HDMI ports in the back, meaning you can plug in a games console if you want, or you can stream your favorite shows from your smartphone. To make sure you can hear your favorite movie, the LM is fitted with lots of sound deadening. You have special noise-reducing wheels and tires, and there's active noise cancellation to keep the cabin nice and hushed. The partition between the rear and the driver's area has also got plenty of soundproofing, and the glass partition can be blanked out if you don't want to look at your chauffeur. You won't have to speak to the driver either, because between the 2 rear seats is a touch screen to control things like the climate, audio, sun blinds and your ambient lighting. If lifting a finger seems like too much effort, there are also voice commands exclusively for the rear seat passengers. Compare the latest new car deals. Lexus hasn't given a 0 to 60 miles per hour time for the LM, but that's not really what a car like this is about, is it? After all, if you launch it too hard then your passengers will spill their champagne and you'll lose your chauffeuring job pretty quickly. New Lexus LM price and release date. The Lexus LM is going on sale in the UK in the autumn of this year, and pricing information will be revealed closer to this time. With all this luxury and tech on board, you can expect a price well north of £100,000.
Planning on towing or hauling a lot of stuff with your SUV? The 2023 Ford Expedition might be just what you're looking for. This large 3-row SUV offers seating for 8 and is one of the biggest and most capable vehicles out there. But it's also plenty refined and offers just about everything Ford supplies these days in regards to technology, including Blue Cruise, which is a helpful hands-free driver assist system for use on select highways. Much of the Expedition's robust capability comes by way of its truck-based underpinnings. Ford says you can pull up to 9,300 pounds with the Expedition when it's properly equipped. That's enough to pull a good-sized trailer or boat. Or if you need space for a family road trip or to help move house, there's the long-wheelbase Expedition Max body style and its substantial 121.5 cubic feet of cargo space behind the first-row seats. The Expedition is one of just a few large SUVs around. The Chevrolet Tahoe and GMC Yukon, plus the related Suburban and Yukon XL, are the Expedition's primary rivals, but you might also consider the relatively new Jeep Wagoneer or Wagoneer L. Toyota is out with a redesigned Sequoia, too. What's the best max-sized SUV for you? Read our test team's expert rating to find out how the Expedition stacks up. We're impressed with the V6 engine's muscle. Any SUV this large can't really be this quick, can it? We tested an Expedition Platinum with 4WD, and it accelerated from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 6.9 seconds. That's almost a second quicker than a comparable Chevy Tahoe. The Expedition is responsive and easy to drive when you aren't burying the accelerator into the ground too. The brake pedal is slightly squishy when you first press on it, but ultimately it's pretty easy to come to smooth stops, which is the important part. The steering has a light effort and helps to make this Expedition feel a little less humongous. While you won't likely be driving your Expedition with Secret Service-like urgency, there are some pretty admirable qualities here for such a large SUV. It's no Mercedes GLS, but this does not feel clumsy. The Expedition's front seats are comfy and cushy. They have multiple zones of lumbar support and even have a massage function in the higher trims. The second row seats are also decently plush. The third row seating is firm but still adequate for adult use. The Expedition's ride quality is pretty smooth too. We were less impressed by the Expedition's climate control. The airflow from the vents is noisy and not particularly strong. The seat heaters also might disappoint if you really like them to get hot. On the upside, the Expedition is impressively quiet on the highway and around town. How's the interior? The Expedition makes full use of its interior space. It's roomier than the Chevy Tahoe and gives every passenger ample room and comfort. The third row's accessibility is particularly impressive, allowing even adults to get in and out without much more effort than it takes to sit in the second row. The center console is a bit button-heavy. It's not immediately user-friendly, but it doesn't require too much time to master. It's a simpler layout than the Tahoe's too. Visibility out of the front is hampered by the massive windshield pillars. But even though the rear window looks to be a mile away, a clear backup camera and available 360-degree camera system take the edge off backing up. Ford's Sync infotainment system has come a long way over the years, and the newest iteration is pretty user-friendly. The navigation system does look a bit dated but offers pinch-to-zoom functionality, helping to make it quick and easy to use. Our test vehicle's 12-speaker Bang & Olufsen audio system made good use of the Expedition's large cabin, providing both power and clarity. The voice controls are basic and can help with simple functions. Android Auto and Apple CarPlay smartphone integration systems come standard with wireless connectivity. The Expedition's advanced driver aids, such as adaptive cruise control, work fine but aren't quite as full-featured as those in some rival SUVs. The Expedition has a listed cargo capacity of 20.9 cubic feet behind the third row, 57.5 cubic feet behind the second row, and 104.6 cubes max. That's less space than its direct rival, the Chevy Tahoe. But the Expedition's extra spaces for all your knickknacks, plus its flexible seating arrangement, more than compensate. The Expedition is also a good vehicle for hauling little kids around. It has easy-to-access anchors for safety seats plus lots of room to fit rear-facing seats. Towing capacity is great with a maximum capacity of 9,300 pounds when properly equipped. The Expedition gets an EPA estimated 19 miles per gallon in combined city/highway driving. That's similar to what the EPA posts for other large SUVs. But we had difficulty matching the EPA's numbers in our real-world testing. Something else to consider is that premium fuel is required to get the quoted power numbers. During our time with the Expedition, we could notice a difference in performance between regular and premium fuel. The Expedition is priced comparable to other large SUVs such as the Chevy Tahoe. Warranty coverage is also typical for a non-luxury automaker. Interior build quality and materials choices slightly exceed what's available from its crosstown rivals. The Expedition isn't fun to drive in the classic sense, but it is rewarding to summon its muscle car-like torque and use this big SUV for its intended purposes. Road trips, daily commuting, and heading out to the great outdoors are all right up the Expedition's alley. The mid-range limited trim gets our recommendation in the Expedition lineup. It adds convenience and luxury items such as a hands-free liftgate, leather upholstery, premium audio, adaptive cruise control and a navigation system to justify the cost increase. It's also eligible for a more powerful engine and sport suspension as part of the Stealth Performance package. The 2023 Ford Expedition is a large 3-row SUV that's available in 6 trim levels: XL, XLT, Timberline, Limited, King Ranch and Platinum.
Tested, 2023 Cadillac Lyriq AWD pumps out more electrons, keeps its composure. A second motor and more power make Caddy's all-electric SUV quicker, but haven't changed its cushy personality. Just a couple of years ago, the notion of a 500 horsepower Cadillac would inevitably have conjured up visions of something with a V badge on its deck lid and a Blackwing engine rumbling menacingly behind its grille. No more. The 2023 Cadillac Lyriq AWD exemplifies how the EV revolution has turned ideas about performance upside down. Like many of today's EVs, this twin-motor, 500 horsepower version of the Lyriq is powerful and quick, but otherwise extraordinarily normal. It doesn't look like a car that promises to smoke its tires into the next state and doesn't drive like one either. Instead, it evokes and updates the best aspects of Cadillac's past: their smooth ride, hushed, well-dressed cabins, and effortless power. Thank you, electrons. Other than the model number on the hatch, Lyriq AWDs get a 600 × 10⁴ designation, while RWD models wear 450E badging. The 600 and 450 represent rounded torque figures in Newton meters. There's nothing to indicate that the dual-motor, all-wheel drive Lyriq is any different from the rear-drive, single-motor model that first hit the market. We liked that car for its absorbent ride and quiet ways, but felt it needed more than its 340 horsepower to be a fully realized Caddy. The Lyriq AWD solves that with a second permanent magnet motor driving the front wheels. Combined output rises to 500 horses and 450 pound-feet of torque, an increase of 160 ponies and 125 pound-feet over the rear driver. That you can't tell the twin-motor model from the single-motor version at first glance, or second or third, amounts to truth in advertising. Aside from the AWD's extra power, its cushy driving demeanor remains fundamentally unchanged. Stand on the Lyriq AWD's accelerator and it sprints to 60 miles per hour in 4.6 seconds and hauls itself through the quarter mile in 12.9 seconds at 113 miles per hour, improvements of 1.1 seconds to 60 miles per hour and 1.4 seconds and 14 miles per hour in the quarter. That should be energetic enough for most people, but it's only mid-pack in the EV universe. A Hyundai Ioniq 5, for instance, scoots to 60 miles per hour in 4.5 seconds. At the other end of the size and price spectrum, a nearly 7,000-pound Rivian R1S does it in 3.1, and there are a lot of ballistic EVs sandwiched between those two bookends. The Lyriq's power delivery harks back to the big-engine Cadillacs of yore and seems purposely tuned to underscore its luxury mission. Like the Lyriq RWD, the AWD's powertrain parses out the torque smoothly and gradually rather than bringing it on all at once with a bang like some competitors. Maximum thrust doesn't arrive until 40 or 50 miles per hour. The progressive pull is an integral part of the Lyriq's soft-spoken personality, as is the barely audible synthesized hum that accompanies acceleration. The cabin is as quiet as an isolation tank, registering just 63 decibels of interior sound as the Lyriq whooshes through the atmosphere at 70 miles per hour. A plush, composed ride nails the other signature Cadillac personality trait. The multi-link suspension glides over big pavement swells, is glassy on smooth highways, and almost never bobs. The pancake-style 102.0 kWh Ultium battery bolted to the Lyriq's belly, the same capacity as in the rear-drive model, makes for a low center of gravity. That's likely part of the reason the Lyriq feels more agile than you'd expect for a vehicle weighing 5,838 pounds, but the Caddy is far more in its element cruising than chomping up serpentine roads. cornering grip peaks at a relatively low 0.82 g, and our test cars Michelin Primacy all seasons, 265 divided by 50 are -20s all around, held in protest when leaned on even lightly. The steering is confident but light on feel, and the brake system blends regeneration and hydraulic action smoothly. Given the AWD's mass and all-season rubber, stops from 70 miles per hour are reasonable at 182 feet. 2 levels of regen enable one-pedal driving, and a steering wheel paddle delivers maximum regen on demand. Our real-world testing exposed the one area where the dual-motor Lyriq suffers compared to its single-motor sibling, range. The EPA estimated range is close between the two, with the single motor at 312 miles and the dual motor coming in at 307. But on our 75 miles per hour highway range test, the rear-drive Lyriq covered 270 miles while the AWD version managed only 220. That's a big enough difference to influence how far you dare to roam. At least recharging won't take inordinately long. Our AWD tester came with the standard 11.5 kW AC charging module. A 19.2 kW onboard charger will be optional for 2024 AWD models and will add up to 51 miles of range per hour from a level 2, 240V, AC charger backed by a 100 amp circuit, according to Cadillac. The battery can handle up to 190 kilowatts of DC fast charging, which the company says will replenish the range at a rate of about 77 miles every 10 minutes. For 2023, all Lyriqs came only in the luxury trim. The past tense is intentional as the production run of about 2,000 units is sold out for 2023, and Cadillac is now taking orders for 2024 models. So, the only choice buyers had to make was between the two propulsion systems. Since they're on even footing, the dual motor has the same roomy, handsomely designed interior as the single motor. It's a welcoming, luxurious cabin featuring nice lines, handsome leather seating, tasteful brightwork, and good-looking wood. Convenient storage spots abound, but there are also several human-machine interface issues. The 33-inch diagonal curved display that's home to the gauge cluster and many of the car's functions looks slick but forces you to click through several screens to access menus and submenus controlling everything from the 19-speaker AKG audio system to the standard Google Assistant. Most climate controls are conveniently located in a row of hard buttons in the center stack area, but you must still call up the HVAC menu to sync driver and passenger temperature settings. The door-mounted switches that control front seat massage and lumbar adjustments are fussy. GM's usually excellent Super Cruise hands-free driving system cut out multiple times on a short stretch of interstate for no apparent reason. And we still smile at what look like exterior door handles. They're actually large push buttons for the door's electric latches and are awkward to use. The Lyriq offsets those trespasses, and the fact that it doesn't offer such features as heated rear seats or second-row HVAC controls, with a grand slam on value. Our test car stickered for $65,615, which included the loan option of $625 for its stellar black metallic paint. It felt more expensive than that. Better still, the Lyriq is eligible for the government's $7,500 EV tax credit, and the price jump from RWD to the more powerful AWD powertrain is a mere $2,000. Those 500 well-mannered horses are worth every penny, as is the EV that comes with them.
Hey, everyone. I am with the 2023 Hyundai Santa Cruz. This truck just got dropped off and we'll be doing this review in the same sort of format that you all are used to. These are my raw first impressions and well, let's just go ahead and get started. This is quite a small segment right now. We really only got the Hyundai Santa Cruz, the Ford Maverick, and I guess the Honda Ridgeline if you look at it that way. But the main competitor to this truck is the Ford Maverick, a truck that my colleague Charlie actually owns. So it'll be interesting to spend a week with this truck and see how it compares to the Ford Maverick, for one thing. So we had one of these trucks a couple of years ago, in 2021. I'm a year behind and I remember this tonneau cover being particularly irritating to operate. However, it is above freezing, so it should work now. Okay, so now it does function as it should. Kind of a cool built-in design there, the rollback, a tonneau cover, and then similar to the Honda Ridgeline, we have another little pocket back here that opens up for some additional storage in the tailgate, or in the bed of the truck behind the tailgate. So that's kind of neat. You've just got to make sure that your strap for your tonneau cover doesn't get caught in it. I got to love raw first impressions videos. Should we step up here? You should stop. Oh, here we go. Okay, well, now you all know how to operate the tonneau cover, a Santa Cruz, pretty lightweight tailgate there. This is the limited trim. We've got a 2.5-liter turbo, 4-cylinder, we've got a DCT, we've got all-wheel drive. Overall, a pretty striking appearance here with the Santa Cruz. It's pretty similar to the Tucson, but some more rugged styling. As you can see here. We've got some more cladding with a little tiny Santa Cruz there right at the top, kind of neat jump in the back, and this seat is pushed all the way back. So we're actually going to go over to the passenger side, sit back there, black leather interior on this particular truck and the cool metallic gray. Alright. Happened back here. Pretty good room. But honestly, if you compare it to the Ford Maverick, this was one of the lasting impressions with the Santa. It just doesn't feel as open in here as the Ford Maverick does. It feels more SUV-ish and less unique to this segment of vehicle, sliding rear window. Pretty neat. If you look up at the dashboard. Alright. Let's hop up and take it for a drive 4,000 miles on this truck. Let's get the seat in a usable position here. Alright. Pretty basic Hyundai controls here on these higher trim Hyundai vehicles. You don't get a volume knob, which is annoying, but you do get a little switch right here on the steering wheel, which does allow you to change volume, heated and cooled controls right here above the center console, four-wheel drive, lock and paging drive modes over here. So we've got Snow, Smart Sport and Normal. These are the old style gauges. I have a feeling this Santa Cruz is going to be due for some sort of a mid-cycle refresh here. Shortly. We'll get some new tech in here and everything will look quite new because this car looks exactly the same as the last Santa Cruz we drove a couple of years ago. But that's not surprising. There hasn't been any big news on this vehicle. Okay. So if we've got a Morone in here, I'm going to say we probably don't. How we do. Very cool, right? Let's take a look at our Morone. So $41,000. Okay. Keep that in mind. This would compete with the high-end, the highest in Mavericks, so a Lariat all-wheel drive with the 2-liter turbo. This would still be more expensive. 41 grand. Don't forget though, you do get a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty with these Hyundais and Kias and Genesis. So say 10.2, 5-inch cluster and touchscreen. We've got Bose audio in here. Interesting. Usually you get Harman Kardon and Hyundais. So kind of cool to see something different in here. Where do we have? Oh, here we go. 8-speed. What? Dual clutch and a 2.5-liter turbo. Yep. We went over that. Okay, enough reading them and Roni. Oh, except actually final assembly is Montgomery, Alabama. Quite truckish. Okay, here we go. Smooth shifts from that 8-speed. What? Dual clutch. Okay. I don't fully still understand why dual clutches are such the rage. Still, I imagine it has to do with efficiency because there's no torque converter. But they have so many issues because Americans aren't used to driving manual cars and they aren't used to how manual cars behave. And of course, underneath this is just a manual transmission that's electronically controlled. So Americans just drive differently than Europeans, and it often leads to these dual clutches having issues. We saw this with Ford back in the early 2010s with the Focus and Fiesta, and we're actually now seeing it again with Kia and Hyundai having major issues with their dual clutches. So I think it's worth the extra couple MPEG that you lose to just have a regular auto. Oh yeah, this is quick, pretty similar power to a Ford Maverick with the 2-liter turbo, but of course what you get in the Ford Maverick you get a regular traditional 8-speed auto. So probably going to last longer than this dual clutch. But if you drive it spiritedly, oh my goodness. A little bit of torque steer. Yeah. Quite good. This is quicker than I remember it being. Let's try a sport mode. You also have paddle shifters as well as manual control down here, something you don't get on the Ford Maverick. You'd have no way to manually shift gears in that vehicle. It feels very front-wheel drive biased, but you can, of course, lock it into 4-wheel drive if you so desire. But the transmission do its own thing here. Not a bad noise from this 2.5. It's a little grainy. That's okay. You start, you're just in there. So sport mode is of course going to hold gears longer. The alignment is slightly off. It's okay. And these first impressions reviews are tough when you don't have someone to bounce ideas off of. It's like when I'm doing a first impressions review. I'd like to have somebody with me if I'm doing like an end of the week longer view, it's much easier to do those solo. Yeah, not bad. Pretty flat through there. Good power on the out. Alright, let's go back into normal, or actually let's try smart mode coming up on rough right section here for some of the right hazards which right up their front and center space. Okay, it's pretty quiet in here, that would be one advantage over the Maverick. It's certainly quieter going down the road. The ride is quite nice as well. It's a little stiff, but it's quiet again. You don't really hear much road intrusion. Alright. So it's a 45. Yeah, quite nice over there. That is certainly where the Santa Cruz excels over the Maverick. You spend a little bit more money on equivalent Santa Cruzes, but they do feel higher end than the Maverick. I think overall, the Maverick is a cooler vehicle, but this certainly feels like a higher quality item. So there are certain people I'd recommend the Maverick to. There are certain people I'd recommend the Santa Cruz to, which is nice, you know, having that segment available to more than just one type of buyer, even when there are really only 2 choices. But I guess we've got the Ridgeline, there's 3. We've got the heart and the soul of the Subaru Baja. I guess let's sort of started this trend that was like the El Camino back in the 50s. It's just because of the Australians, because they wanted to have car trucks. So then the Americans bounced off that with the El Camino. And then we also had the Subaru Baja. He fast forward all the way to the 2000s and then they kind of died off, and then now they're coming back again. So Honda rebooted it with the Ridgeline. So it's kind of neat. Well, I will be spending the week with this Hyundai Santa Cruz, and I will actually have Charlie at the end of it for the outro. And I think he will actually be able to spend about a day and a half. So you'll get impressions from both of us in about 10 seconds. On the wrap-up of the Santa Cruz Limited Turbo all-wheel drive, wrapping up our week with the Hyundai Santa Cruz, and Charlie actually spent a couple of days in it close all day. Yeah, it's a lot for me with press cars. That's right. Yeah. He was driving 5 other cars in California and doing other things this week, but I was able to spend a good amount of time with it and, top end and wrap up our week. You know what I did do with it? What did you do? Let me guess. You probably got something dirty. No. Oh, I parked it next to a Tucson. Oh, did you get a photo? I didn't know, but this looks better than the Tucson. Once a little more angry, a little more aggressive. The Tucson looks a lot more squished. Yeah. In the front. This looks kind of cool. I still think it's trying a little too hard, though. Oh, like or. Yeah. Did you notice that the tunnel cover does indeed work on this one? Oh, they've improved that. Yes or no? I think because it's warm out now. Sure. Quick as well. So this is a 23. You know what's irritating about this and why are there metal shavings back here? There must be the tile cover falling apart. You think so? I can imagine. Well, you didn't put anything in here, did you know? Anyway, so you know what's irritating about this is you open this, no the strap goes into it. Oh, no, that's it then. So then you have to walk around the side to pull the strap out of the way. Out of the way, and then close it and then you have to walk back around. Yeah. Grab the strap. Pull shut. All right. Yeah. That's a lot. Right, well you're shutting it now or we're driving. Taking a look in here because, you know, we are Maverick for over a year now. I'm trying to think, first of all, this kills the usability of this bag. Yes. Think of all the things I've put in a Maverick and sent photos to you of couches, motorcycles. Well, those are many things. Great ways to start. I would not have been able to fit the motorcycles in here because they go up to the front of the bag. Yeah. And we lose like that's over a foot. Yeah. And then couches. Yeah. Same thing. I mean, I've really utilized the whole thing and even these little bits take up usable. Yeah. They look cooler. They do look cool. And I know the intended shoppers are different between this and the Maverick, and you could probably I don't know if you could remove this. I'm sure you could remove that you will share, but like, easily. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Probably not the little adjustable things I could. I can definitely see myself using those. I do wonder though, I think of like, oh, this was boots. That. Yeah, they'd fit and this would be a nice little thing to have. Just a little under storage. Well, this is kind of like a ridgeline. Yeah, that was thinking about that with it says under here, there's a warning that says don't use it for beverages, but it's got a drink. This is a good short out the electronics. Pretty sure. Check it out. Yeah. Yes. Oh, to the latch area. Well, you have to assume that water is going to splash up on the latch causing failures, huh? Yeah, the electronic latch. Yeah. Maybe they mean, like, power washing and or something. That could be. Yeah, it probably happened to, like, 2 people on the 2022 models, and so they put that thing myself. I couldn't be, you know, thank you for assisting. It's a 2-person job to close that. Yeah. I like the soft closed tailgate. Soft, open, soft, open. It's not soft. Close. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot going on. My brother with the truck, and we'll talk about it more here from inside. But is this as a car that people buy more? So to use the front end, occasionally use the band Maverick is a little bit more 5050 like yeah, I could see that because you plan on having a bed in for use. Yeah. Oh yes. Sorry. Would you like to close it? Well, because I can do the honors. It's very graceful. Okay. Would you like to drive? Yeah. Yeah. Not a ton of sidewall on these giant wheels. No, I think they're toes. Pretty sure. Small pet peeve. I like all the dust on here. Well, yes, that I. Oh, come on. Is that why you wear hoodies all the time? Easier to clean off screen. Yeah. My material wouldn't have done that anyway. A remote started this over the weekend and things I remote started this over the weekend and when you remote start it there's no confirmation, there's no like lights that come on to let you know that it's the starting has worked, it flashes 3 times, but then stays blank. A lot of cars the DRLS. Come on. You can go. Oh good, it's start good. It's running. Yeah, I have no idea. Why do the Koreans struggle with that so much? With the remote start not only starting, but also giving you a sign that it has started. Right? And I don't know. I don't know. Also, I was blinded last night because we had to drive in the evening and it was a very bright. I had it turned all the way down to the white gauges. Yeah. And no eco mode. Oh. So you have to either drive in sport or look at the white base gauges. CarPlay works pretty well, although again, small pet peeve that it doesn't, by default, bring it up because you get in the car, you plug your device in, or you use one of the wireless CarPlay adapters that we've promoted on the channel. And then it says reading USB and now CarPlay is connected. But it doesn't like I still have to go over here and click it. But why doesn't it just come up? Yeah, that's true. That's true. Because you would think if you're plugging CarPlay and you would probably want CarPlay. Yeah, that's true. Also, I'm not a huge fan of the haptics for adjusting the time because you have to like it. You have to look at them and do it in a lot of vehicles. You can just get in and kind of like mindlessly rotate things. Another thing, if you do a remote start, if you do remote start the truck, it defaults, and maybe you can change this, but it defaults climate control, the 72 auto. I noticed that it was a little bit haunted when I got it because it would just do whatever it wanted to do. I was like, why does the climate control keep changing? And I'm not asking it to do that. There's got to be a way to probably make it not do that. Like there was something else irritating with this. The problem is it's been like 4 days since I've driven it, so I don't remember what I was irritated with the tuning the throttle, tuning with the DCT. Not the smoothest thing in the world, sure. But it could also be because of the turbo lag. Well, let's explain this to the viewers a little bit. Who maybe aren't quite as technically minded. This truck, as opposed to many other vehicles for its transmission, uses a mechanism where two physical clutches have to come together and meet and marry in order to propel the car forward, similar to that of a manual transmission as opposed to most automatics which use a viscous fluid in order to be able to stop it. It's a vicious meaning. It's thick like peanut butter and a torque converter, like a warm peanut butter. Yes. And the torque converter to propel the car forward, and those torque converter automatics do lose a little bit in fuel efficiency, but they make up for it in the smoothness. And this car actually has to use a wet clutch to meet together. And sometimes that results in jerkiness. Sometimes, as Chris mentioned, it results in not very smooth satellite application. But also I really do genuinely worry about the longevity of this transmission. Yeah, well, we've seen that when they got trouble with hundreds had trouble, Ford had trouble when they were doing it. We just talked about this in the Mazda 690, how no one ever really has issues with the torque converter automatics. But manufacturers always have issues when they try to go for a dual clutch automatic. It's just like I was at a stoplight yesterday next to a third-generation Ford Focus, and I almost sent you a photo saying, what are these two cars having? Yeah. And then we'll need a transmission in 100. That's right. Yeah. And I think even more so with a vehicle like this, trucks are something that you often do stop and go type of things with. Oh yeah. For example, I pulled a tree out with my Maverick Ford, and that is something that in this smoke, the clutch. Yeah, the clutch would just be like burning up, having to try to go from a stop and yanking out that tree. Yeah, well, the Maverick, it's just moving the torque converter there. No harm, no foul. Yeah. So doing towing off-roading, pulling of trees, nudging yourself back to a trailer or something like that, or to a loading round, that's a lot of work. I mean, there's just a lot of things that I don't want the idea of doing with the dual clutch. Well, like you said earlier, this Santa Cruz is more aimed towards people that are going to only occasionally use the back. The front is the priority. So at least in that respect, yes, it probably won't suffer as much from all the things that you just listed. Also, if I got one of these, I would get a trans tune and make it at least shift fast and fart, because then you'd have some sort of value to having a dual clutch. You would want a Santa Cruz, and yes, you'd be Santa Cruz. I'd have an exhaust, a tune, a downpipe and a trans tune, and it would be like, and I'd get some seats from an Elantra, and I am going to choose not to throw this thing around like an absolute moonwagon. Why? Because it handles great. I believe you. But as we've discussed. Okay. And you're still going. Yeah, well, this is casual, but so it does drive this. I'm not going to throw it around, but most people aren't going to drive the truck. No. I do remember going on the first drive of this in Santa Cruz, and my goodness I was thinking, why does Hyundai name all of their vehicles off after places like here over the two? It's kind of that Korean thing where they're like, oh, well, what's a nice American thing? It's like, oh, let's just go through the list of deserts. Santa Cruz, Santa Fe, Tucson, Telluride, Kona Palisade, maybe a place. Palisade Mountains. Oh, yeah. So many. Yeah. What the Santa Cruz does really well is refinement. I will say being in here is a nice place to be. There's comforts, the ergonomics are really good. You can just kind of have your hand showing on this cool wheel. The shifter works well back and forth. This, even though somewhat of an annoying, it still gets the volume on the lower and lower trim cars I think you still get about. Yeah, unless this car we're going to hit this at 45 and it's going to take it pretty darn well even with these bigger wheels. I would love to drive a more basic spec Santa Cruz because I feel like that would do better and a lot of truck sort of things. Well, that's quite common on that. There. The gauge cluster is a nice view. I think it looks like some here. Well, the steering is a good weak. It's not too late to feel insignificant, but it's not too heavy to be cumbersome. Yeah, the way that I kind of put it in my intro is pretty much what you just said, where the advantage of this over the Maverick is. It does just feel like a step above in all trims, whereas you get the Maverick if you want to do more utility-style things. But this is something that you could really take on a long trip and use every day and be quite comfortable. Not to say that Maverick isn't. This is just next level because it's a little bit more expensive and the materials are a little bit nicer feeling. I think the Maverick is a more unique interior and more unique truck overall. Yeah, but no, I mean, the Maverick's not nearly as comfortable. Yeah, and a lot of people complain about the cheapness of the Maverick where it's not the case with this one. You know what? This does have roof rails. Maverick does not. Oh, interesting. Can you not add them to the Maverick? You can. Yeah. This more has the heart of a Subaru Baja. Whereas the Maverick has the heart of a first-gen Ranger. Yeah. Well, the other thing, and furthering what you just said before we took our silly thumbnail, you know how the Honda Ridgeline is excellent, but very few people buy them. You're going to do a very Charlie sort of thing here. Testing out the ride undulation. Yeah. Again, you know how the Ridgeline is like the type of truck that we love. But not many people buy them. But the people who do buy them really do quite like them and it fits their life. Yes, I think this is the same concept for a smaller truck. Many more people are buying the Maverick. Anything that makes sense because the Maverick is a more practical body. But there's a narrower subset of more affluent buyers who will prefer this truck over the Maverick. And I do think fits them better. Yes. But I think there are fewer people who would be. But I think the Maverick is a great truck. And I know this is practically turning into another compare, which we've already done. Yeah, we have done the trucks, but I recommend the Maverick to people who might not even be interested in a truck just because it's so inexpensive. Not really the case. But this should be like, does your lifestyle fit A, B, C, and D? Okay, then I guess a Santa Cruz would be a good choice for you, right? Alright, dude, it's so quick and feels like it would keep up with my Roadster. I was going to make that joke. Yeah, you're driving. Seriously, this would probably be true. Oh, it certainly would. From 0-60. Cause shift shifter. So blown out in the Roadster. You're searching for gears the whole time. But yeah, this is like impressive levels of torque. It's got over 300 pound-feet of torque. So, yeah. And you figured this powertrain is shared with the Sonata N-Line. So I would know about that car because I got a ticket in that car. Yeah, it's all-wheel drive. That's right. Yeah, I know. This is the most practical form of that powertrain because it's pretty unusable in the Sonata N-Line. It could just be whatever junky tires they put on that thing. Are you having fun with the console? You don't know. It just feels good. Take the racing line at this apex. I think you. I'm going to leave this part in as no. Charlie just said something offensive and I had to cut it out. It's objectively true. Okay? I didn't say anything bad about them. Okay, I'm going to beat this. People are going to say, you got 300 pound-feet of torque. Yeah, yeah. I feel like they put better tires on this, and they did on that. This thing handled one race. Yeah, it's fun to drive. Yeah. I mean, it's a good track. How much does it cost? Oh yeah. No, it's tricky. Yeah, that's not too much. Crazy. 41-42 people are spending a lot of money on cars these days. Yeah. Would you have this or a Maverick Tremor Lariat? Hurt Tremor, Larry. Something like 37. I know. Yeah. So you'd have that because then you could also do all of your Charlie things with it. Yeah. We're going to have to use a different level. We'll go to this one. Yeah, I mean, I know there are a lot of people who, especially if you lease cars or whatever, it doesn't matter. But I would be genuinely concerned about owning this and doing the things I do with the dual clutch. Yeah, I really would be. So I'd get them every, The Tremor rides better. Yeah. This is a nicer place to be. I think I'd have this for uniqueness, 'cause you never really see these and it's just kind of a cool factor thing. And either way, you see Mavericks, though, you don't see Santa Cruz at all. I see these more when we're out west, right? These are more of the lifestyle of beach people. Well, let's take a couple surfboards back there. That's all right. Yeah, it's cool. At the launch event, they took videos for the launch event with some famous surfer. Might have been Kelly Slater, but I don't know who was like, I really like the Santa Cruz, and I can do all my surfing thing and go hang out with my friends at the beach. I'm like, okay, PR stuff. You could just buy a 987 Caymanas because it comes with places to screw in a roof rack, that would be better. And then you could put surfboards on that, although you would probably have a small aneurysm if anyone got a grain of sand in your car. That's true, but you could just buy another, not mine. You need to buy a 47. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're interested in the Santa Cruz, buy a 987 Caymanas. And that's right, because it's about the same price. Yeah, well, it's actually cheaper. Cheaper, like 10 grand. And the transmission will last longer. Yes. And that's Daily Motor, and that's the 23 Hyundai Santa Cruz. I'm going a different color to it. I was just going to say that I kind of like this gray because it's got some cool flake. I agree that I would get a different color, but I don't mind this. Gray, yeah, it's just boring. It is bland. I wish you could have this in yellow. I would be sick if you could get yellow. What's the type of truck that like? It needs to be amped up a bit by the colors again. That's what matters. Yeah, well, it's a bunch of cool colors on it. Get a Santa Cruz, wrap it yellow, put an engine and trans tune on it, put it down, pipe on it. Bigger tires, lift it up slightly and I say down, pipe and dump. Okay, well, whatever. Make it fart and make it tall and make it yellow. That's what I would do. All right. Well, all those things would make the Santa Cruz the best fuel. That's right. Anything else useful? I feel like there's something else I want to say, but it's cool. Yeah. Okay. Well, are we Paris and Nicole? Yeah, I think we're person too cool for this truck. Okay. All right, everyone. Well, thank you all so much for watching.